Welcome to the Flooring Podcast.
I'm John Weller, and I'm the preacher. There was an ant farm, pit bulls, German Shepherd. I was afraid to go in the office.
I'm Todd Saunders, and I'm the outsider.
Can I just stop you right there? What's your favorite Ariana Grande song?
I couldn't tell you.
Me neither. Do you know any?
Okay. I'm Jason Goldberg, and I'm the dealer. I make throw them out of the store.
And we're three, sometimes friends, from three different backgrounds, brought together by our passion of helping the flooring industry move forward. And this is the podcast. The podcast? And here's the pod. This is the Flooring Podcast. I'm excited to be doing a live episode of this. I was telling my mom that I do a podcast with two guys the same age as my dad, and she thought it was pretty funny. So anyway, this really did start as all of us just sitting around a table and talking, and we're going to leave half the time open for questions, and a lot of people sent us questions beforehand. And I think with everyone in this group, we can move mountains and change things, and I think if we go back to some of the initial conversations we had, you're really preaching add value, not vanity. Don't just say you're going to do all of these things, actually do them, and where are the results. We also talked a lot about adversity, and you know, my mom came on stage, she was crying the whole way up talking about it. But adversity is a thing that we all overcome, right? We've overcome it in our business, we've all overcome it in our lives. You have a ton of adversity stories. So I want to go to you, John. Like, you've overcome a lot of adversity. Is there one story when it comes to adversity that comes to mind?
Yep, especially when you ask it. So I can tell you when we started Floor Force, first of all, when I told people, I had been in flooring my entire life, my last 10 years working at Mohawk, and left Mohawk, and people are like, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, we're going to start a digital marketing and website company. I didn't even own a computer at that time. And everyone looked at me and like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. I see it coming. I see the internet's going to disrupt. And I read 15 books about tech startups and digital marketing and self-educated myself to a point where we could start the company, and I had a basic knowledge set. And we achieved that, and we got to about 250 customers after about 3 years, and a lot of retailers were asking for Google advertising or digital advertising. And so I reached out to some recruiters that did specifically recruiting in the digital marketing space, and went through 7 different people that we had hired and tried to scale digital advertising in the flooring space. The flooring space is unusually difficult because in most digital marketing, the customers spend upwards to $100,000 a month. In this space, obviously, that's not true. So a lot of people struggled with it. So I can tell you, I tried everything. I went to the recruiters that worked on that. I, again, went to the internet and tried to find resources. I finally went right to Google and said, look, nothing's working. I've got this industry that needs to understand and have a service. And so they invited us to New York. And even at Google, I could not get an answer. And so just, again, you have to keep, I think a lot of times, a lot of people think they've tried. And whether it's, especially something you don't understand, the easiest thing to do is say, I tried, and that's just something that's not going to happen. But the last resort was talking to another friend of mine who owned a digital marketing agency who had been reading blog posts and read one written by Todd. While we were at Google, he showed this to me. We reached out to the person that wrote it, who happened to be Todd, and Todd happened to be across the street from Google that night.
At a bar.
At a bar, at happy hour. That is how we met. And, you know, again, when you face adversity, I think just not giving up. If you see that there always is a solution. So again, I started this company when everyone told me, you're crazy. What are you thinking? And then we went after digital advertising. And again, I faced roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And now we're partners.
It's funny, when I think about you, Jason, and adversity, I feel like you overcome adversity. You also like to create some adversity. I know you have an adversity story deep down in you. What is like your gut-wrenching adversity story?
So I guess I have a question first. How many of you know the history of my start? All right, so a couple. So I'll follow suit with John. Look, we all go through a ton of adversity. I'll tell you about how I started my company in the flooring business and the adversity I went through. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a third-generation flooring professional. My grandfather started a small company in Columbus, Ohio called Right Rug. They do about $400 million. My dad took it over after my grandfather. I became president of that company in 1997. I was fired in 2000. At its most recent time, I had taken the builder division. I was president by title, not by authority, trust me. My dad runs that company. But I had taken the builder division from $2 million to $12 million in 2 years. And then I got fired. And at that point
Was
in
it
time,
for cause?
it was not for cause. I'm not going to get into the reasons because I could talk all day about it. But when I got fired, when you're the son of, someone who's rich, you don't really think about saving your money because you just assume you're just going to always have some, right? You're just going to keep making more. So I got fired, no job, hadn't saved any money. But I knew this business very well, and I love this business, so I decided, fuck this, I'm gonna open up my own, and I'm gonna show this motherfucker what I can do. And
You have a microphone. Make it
that's right, sorry. So that's what I did, but to do it, I had to cash in my 401k, I had to sell my house, I had to move into an apartment, sold my car, bought a used junker for like $300. You didn't take a paycheck for the first year, and you live like a pauper, and this whole time the adversity is, what sacrifice and what you have to go through to make it happen. And then I had this short little bald man with a Napoleon complex running around to every supplier, and some of those guys are probably in this room telling them, if you sell my son, I'm gonna quit buying from you. When, he's the giant, and I'm a guy who's currently doing zero. And you gotta get customers, build a team, get a facility, do all this with no money, and so that was my adversity story. And if you want to know the did it work or did it not work, well, $195 million later, made it through that adversity just fine. So whatever adversity you're fighting, fight it. You'll win. You gotta fight that adversity because it can be painful.
You talked to me a bit about your adversity story behind stage, and you said that you continually had to reinvest to grow your business. You take like 2 steps forward, or 3 steps forward, and then 1 step back. What was that like? Because I think everyone hears you say 195 million, we get it, you make a ton of money, but it wasn't always that way. So what were the first 3 years like to get to that point, and how were you reinvesting?
All right, so I started off doing builder business. And when you don't have any money and you're doing builder business, you gotta buy material, you gotta pay your labor, and you gotta wait at a minimum, and you're lucky if you get paid in 45 days. So, Todd, repeat what you wanted to know again.
I said you talked to me about the first 3 years of your business.
Yeah.
You weren't always rich, right? You were constantly reinvesting.
So think of having no money, but you got to grow a company. So I've told you guys this before in different sessions, not this year, where you have to be willing to just take less. So as we're growing, we want to grow, we need another salesperson. So that inhibits my ability to pay myself more, but it's a sacrifice you're willing to make. So you got to invest, but if you're using that money correctly, look, that money can either go in your pocket or someone else's pocket to help grow your company. You're taking a little bit less, but it should only take like 90 days before that person is producing. Now you're a step ahead again. So you take a small step back to step ahead, then another small step back. So it's like the graph that goes up, slowly, but it eventually goes up and to the right. There's a lot of people in this room who run, you're what I call the one-person show. And sometimes it's more than one of you, but it's a very small group of people. It's like, how do I go from $1 million to $2 million? And you do it just like that. Take a step back to take a big step forward, and just continually do that. And those big steps forward will make your paycheck and everyone at your company's paycheck look different over time to the positive.
So you speak about invest. I think there's a lot of investment happening in the flooring industry today, right? Obviously, there's a lot happening on the technology side. You've seen some technology acquisitions. We've made some acquisitions. I'm also noticing that, and John, I'm curious, you've been on the manufacturer side the whole time. There's a lot of consolidation and investments happening with manufacturers. I didn't know how much consolidation. Is this normal, or what do you see the future of consolidation?
Well, anyone who's been in the industry for a long time knows what real consolidation was. When I got in the industry, there were 300 carpet manufacturers, and I was a carpet rep, and it was a really wild change in the way things were. I worked for a company called One to Weave, and you would sit outside a flooring store, and there would be a line, maybe 6, 7 carpet reps waiting to talk to the owner inside the store. And as we know, that's no longer the case. I think there's less than 20 actually meaningful carpet manufacturers. So that's what happened in soft surface. Hard surface is different. Basically, if you have a warehouse and you can get those products on trucks, you can become a supplier. But I do think with the changes in technology, and honestly what you see happening with these manufacturers that are finally seeing that they're going to have to actually up their game in technology and offer you guys more than just a display and some samples, I think there's going to start to be a separation in who can actually get into the game and give you guys the tools that you actually need. And hopefully you guys are part of that change, right? I think I can tell you this, when I worked at Mohawk for part of the time I was there, I used to call in the box stores, and it was really interesting to me. I was really excited at first because they would load us up before we went over there with these products and these prices, and we knew what we were going up against. And I used to think, I have the lowest price, I'm in. That's not how it works at the box store. The box store starts with 900 other questions that you have to fill out. What does your marketing look like to support this product? What does your co-op advertising look like? What is your...
Co-op advertising is one of the most overused and misunderstood
Sorry.
words.
In that scenario, it's interesting because their co-op advertising is not about the brand. When you go to a box store and they ask a manufacturer about co-op advertising, it's just how much money you're going to give us to build our brand. It's not about the brand, which is another interesting dynamic in it. But again, I think you guys can be part of the solution, and maybe you're part of the consolidation for the people that really are standing up for you and investing in you and technology and tools. But I do think there probably is going to be a separation of people who are OEMs, who are selling to box stores and are focusing more on the product and brands that are trying to build. And you guys should be looking at it just like a box store where, again, when I would walk in there, they wanted to know all of these criteria because the price in the product was the last thing on that list. The price in the product didn't matter, to be honest with you. They can get a price and a product from anybody, but they have to check all these other boxes, and that's also how you should buy, and I think that should dictate the future of the hard surface suppliers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the retailers have all the power. Like, the people in this room are the ones that talk to the customers, that install the product. Again, I'm an outsider, but all the products look the same. Like, I don't understand when I go into a showroom or I go to Surfaces. I tell this story, but the first time I went to Surfaces, they asked me to speak. And they said, yeah, go speak over there. And I stood on a step stool with one guy in overalls looking at me, like, why are you talking about anything? And I look around and everyone's petting carpet samples, right? And I'm looking around, I'm being like, what is petting a carpet sample gonna do to make your business better? And I get it. Like, there are some beautiful products out there, but the truth is, if you didn't add a single new product to your showroom, you'd be fine, right? Nothing would change. And I'm curious, at your size, Jason, how do you guys decide what products to bring in, one? And two, recently in retail, you went pretty aggressive into private label. I'm curious why you decided to go private label versus, some of the big brands out there.
So the first part of that question, how we decide on those products is the person who's in charge of our purchasing is in charge of our purchasing. So that's a nice way of me saying I have no idea, I stay out of it, right? Todd's correct. I walk in the showroom, there's plenty of products for customers to choose from.
You should actually see this. I asked Jason to show me around the showroom, and he knew nothing about the entire showroom. Now, he knew everything about the operation, but when we walked in the showroom,
I couldn't tell you what a single product costs, any of that anymore. It's just been years since I've done it. So, look, so someone's in charge of making sure that we have the products that we need for the company that we are, for the divisions that we serve. Todd is correct, we did launch our own private label line right before COVID hit, is when we actually finished the design of it, sourced it from out of the country, and then ordered it. COVID hit, and what should have been here in a couple months took close to a year before we got that first shipment even in.
how much did you purchase?
20 containers, something like that. So, I don't know, $1 million, something like that.
No.
So we brought it in, and I think your question was why?
Yeah.
Why do we do it? So probably the same reasons that you would do it, right? Better margins, and you can't be shocked. That's, to me, the two main reasons you should private label. So when I first opened, only doing builder work, it doesn't make any sense to private label. The builders tell us what products they're using from the Shaws and the Mohawks of the world because there's national programs set up. Doesn't matter if we private label. We've gotten so big, and our retail and wholesale divisions are so big now that I was just looking like, you know how much money I'm leaving on the table because we simply aren't private labeling? So we decided to attack that, and now we're, you get that first shipment in, you sell through it, you realize what you did wrong, like of the 16 SKUs, which colors don't work, we don't like this part of the locking system. You get to make those corrections, now we get to order our second one, and then we'll start adding more products and more categories as we go along. You guys have done a great job of building out a whole private label system.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing the same thing. And I want to open this up to Q&A for everyone on this stage, but there was a few questions that were posted on Facebook that I just want to get to here. Jason, the first one is for you. You used to be all over the Facebook groups, posting all the time, stirring the pot. I think a lot of people miss that. Where have you been outside of, obviously at home? And do you have plans to get into the technology industry? What was your experience there? You were in it for a while, and now you're kind of...
All right, so these are two really separate questions. So,
Same person asked the question.
I used to be really involved in Facebook. I managed Flooring Dealers and More at Jerry. That's Jerry's group, though. So look, it's like everything. It was a new toy for a while. We all got on there, but here's what I found out. You all have an opinion, all right? And quite frankly, I got sick and tired of arguing or listening to in my opinion, your wrong opinions, right? I mean, every subject that gets posted, someone's got to go on there and be an asshole, right? So it's like, you know what? I'll let Jerry. He likes to go on there and do it. I'll let Jerry. I now only post or respond if I feel it's something that's really important. And look, I don't have the time. And the reality is, most of you probably wouldn't know this in the crowd, but I was the most active. Todd and my relationship hasn't always been what it is today.
We were arch enemies for a very long time.
Have been arch enemies for a while, so I used to use the Facebook groups to subtly, and he knew what I was doing, but none of you guys probably could catch on to what was going on there. Second part of the question was about...
You were in the technology space. You obviously sold retail lead management to us, which we appreciate. You had Trelama. Is there something else coming from Jason on the technology side, or what are you thinking?
No. Jason is done doing any external side projects. I only focus on America's Floor Source now. Look, I got lucky. I mean, yeah, RLM was a big hit and does great things, but I'm a flooring guy, and I am overmatched when it comes to technology. Like, I'm entering a space that I'm not trained to compete in yet, and nor am I going to take the time. I built something for my company. It worked. I launched it. I did Trelama because I was pissed at Todd, so I spent almost $1 million to build a failure and launch because I was pissed at someone about something. So no, I don't need to do it again. And look, at 52, I'm not trying to wind things up anymore, right?
You can be pissed at me and just give me the $1 million.
I know.
Pretty good. Or anyone in the audience. So I have a few more questions, again, some for John and some for Jason, but I want to at least make sure I leave some time for questions and then come back to these. So do we have the microphone here anywhere? And you have 3 people up here that are openly honest and will say basically anything, so the harder the question, honestly, the better. Are the microphones anywhere?
Right here.
Okay, I can't see. But so let's open this up to some questions for anyone here on any topic, or else I can go back to some of the questions you guys submitted on Facebook. No questions?
Over here in the middle.
Oh, there we go. Go on.
We got 2.
Oh, I can't see. We have a question right here, I think.
Yep. All right. So a couple of times financing has been brought up, and every time it's been brought up, it's this super important, real big thing, but nobody's really talked about it. And in networking, I found out that, financing is not really that big of a deal. So the question is, in y'all's opinion, how important is financing and how much of your business should be financed? And second part of the question is, where do you think financing is going in the flooring industry?
Why don't you take that? About how do you guys use financing in your business?
We do use financing. Financing is important. There are customers that need that financing, and the better you can learn how to utilize. Sorry, I have light right in my eyes. I can't see any of it. You have people that need that, and if you use it correctly, you can grow your business very effectively with it, especially at retail. And look, those companies that do, the big ones that do shop at home, financing is a key crutch for how they're successful. So I would tell you, figure out ways to make sure you're offering financing. That $2,000 ticket may go to $3,500 or $4,000. And you should have multiple sources for financing. Financing isn't going to go away. It should only become more important. I mean, think about it. If you have less money because of interest rates or inflation or both, yet you want new flooring. Well, how can you, as a flooring store owner, provide that to a customer who doesn't have that money today? You finance it. Solves a problem.
There was also a survey done on that, and it talked about if everything was equal, if you were shopping for floor covering and everything was equal, they asked consumers who made decisions to purchase what was the deciding factor, and the overwhelming deciding factor was financing. So I think it's probably more important than maybe you think.
And to give you specific data on that, Patrick, who's our GM of flooring software, has some data. I don't know if he's in the room, but he has some data on the margin increase for someone that uses financing, the ticket increase of someone that uses financing versus someone that doesn't. I don't want to say the number out loud because I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know it's pretty significant. Just to go off something you said, because you said something to me a few days ago that I want to bring back up, and you mentioned shop at home. You said there's multiple different types of shop at home. How do you slice and dice the multiple different ways to do shop at home?
All right, so.
I know, I'm stirring the pot a little bit.
Yeah, there's like two ways. He knows what I'm going to say, I think. But look, there's the people that, there's the shop at home business I like, and there's the shop at home business that I don't like, right? I don't like the empire model, if you haven't heard me say that before. So there's multiple people that do that model. I think it's a low-life way, I'm sorry, it's just my opinion, of doing that business. You're preying on people, I don't want to.
Come on, just say it. It's in there.
You're preying on people who you're taking advantage of people, right? You're charging them absurdly high margins. I don't have my character, my integrity will not allow me to do it. What I would prefer to do is offer true shop at home, where you give someone a good value, a good deal. It runs the way the rest of my flooring store runs. Everything's the same. I'm not going in there to get a one-hit, huge margin sale to never get a repeat customer again. And that's how the empires in that world runs. And you need a lot of money to run in that world. And we don't want to run. We have a lot of money, and we don't want to run in that space.
All right, let's take another question here. I think there's someone right there with the box.
Private labeling. We bought 50 rolls just short, or 3 months ago, 6 months ago now, and we're like waiting to get our samples done, and Shaw and Mohawk reached out to one of the companies that does it. I'm wondering if anybody out there knows of a machine or printing or somebody that doesn't take 3 to 6 months to get their shit together.
Do you have the rolls of carpet in your warehouse?
Yes.
Well, cut a piece off. And
No, we've got
square it.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, can I just get to the Shaw and Mohawk are trying to stop you from doing it, or they're
No. They're helping with, you know, how we all wait 3 to 6 months to a year to get our samples after the show. These subcontractors that build these boards are truly that slow. Between signing off on the board, then Shaw and Mohawk sending them over the samples to build the boards. I was wondering if there's anybody that is like got some kind of boards or printing that does that, because we're building strap sets ourselves right now, and that's what we're using. But looking to build a board to add some branding to it, so it's not just so generic.
You want to find a third party to buy a board from? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yes. Or
Yeah,
build.
I'm sure there's plenty of them. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but I
Okay.
can call someone on my team and get
Okay.
you the name and number if you want to see me after this.
And if you find Neil Daly, who built our whole merchandising system out there,
Yeah.
he'll obviously help you as well.
Okay.
You know, we built that whole. The other thing I'll say, just to your question, I don't know the situation you're in or
Yeah.
how big of a deal you are, but I think it's very hard, unless you're $190 million, to build your own private labels
Yeah.
and do it the correct way, which is partially why we built that
Yeah.
Flooring Stores United program. People ask us all the time, why did we build this program? And you heard me last year say we're not a buying group, we don't buy, we don't warehouse, we don't do anything. The whole reason we built that is so you guys could have professional, you know, scaled marketing and private labeling. So the one thing I'd say to you is, again, I don't know the position that you're in, but it's very hard for one individual. It's much easier for a group to incur all of those costs together. Because let me tell you, it's damn expensive to get those boards and keep sampling them and merchandise them. So you might want to look at getting a few people together to kind of, you know, do it as one. Another question here?
Yes, this message is question is for Jason. If we're starting a shop-at-home business, do you suggest running it as a separate division?
The short answer is no, I don't.
So run it as part of the, all the sales, or lump them to the retail outlet as well as the shop at home?
Well, look, within whatever computer software, I would be coding it different, so I know that my shop at home division is doing this and my builder division is doing this, but
It's all still one company?
it's all still one company, it's one brand. We run multiple divisions at my company. Every division has a division leader, it's got a separate sales staff, it has a separate process. So like what Karen was talking about in the last session about setting up that process, we have 21 pipelines built in RLM. So there's a sales pipeline and a production pipeline for every division. So everything gets set up the way that that segment of the business should run, and then the teams of people that work on it work on that segment. That's how we set up. You got to get smaller, you may not be able to do it all like that, but you can certainly structure it and set it up correctly. So what your sales process is at Shop at Home, I promise you is different than the sales process for a customer that walks in your store. And
Great.
if it's not, it should be. Just
Thank
like the
you.
sales process for builder or wholesale is different.
Here's a question for Scott right here.
Right here in the middle.
We're in the middle first,
Yeah,
okay.
so let's go back to this installation thing again. So I've heard this for a bit, and we keep leaning on trying to get a curriculum. It's pretty obvious that this group has the ability to make things happen. Why, is there something that I'm missing that we're waiting on a curriculum? Why couldn't you just move forward with your own curriculum?
Can I just ask you a question about this? Again, not fully understanding, but let's just say there was a curriculum and every dealer got the curriculum. Would it then be implemented the same by every dealer, and does every dealer have the time to then implement that curriculum and think that the execution of that, is the problem the execution of the curriculum, or is the problem really the content for the curriculum?
Well, look, two separate questions. Rod, your question basically is this. To me, this is about principle. We're talking about a nonprofit that works for the flooring industry, which means they work for us, right? We are the paying members.
That's why I asked the question.
And they won't give us a curriculum. That's just wrong in my opinion. So can I build my own curriculum? You all know the answer to that. Of course I can. This is now about principle, all right? And that's it. It's about principle. They should provide it. It's plain and simple. Now, once we have the curriculum, then we got to go to Todd's question. How do we then take that curriculum and then make something that works? So it would be best if we could get everyone working together to get it done. And it shouldn't be 3 years later since we got this millions of dollars to be where we're at today, right? This should be so much farther along. But look, there's those of us who do the work, and there's those of us who talk about doing the work. So we got to do the work to get this done, plain and simple.
Yeah, there's a question here.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of be Switzerland here, and FCB2B, one of the representatives was here, and he was talking to some of your vendors, Todd, and there is a new format, there is a new spreadsheet format. Your company has taken it on and implemented it. A very large competitor has decided they're not going to use it, and they don't want to use it. The manufacturers have not committed to it either, and when asked why not, and this is for all of us in the room, this is from a dealer, you have to say to your vendors, if you do not comply with this, I am not going to have you in my showroom. It is a fact. I mean, these guys can say it, but it is a fact that if they don't comply, or if you're with a software vendor who will not import a vendor's given spreadsheet because they're not ready for it, then you might have to move, which is what we're considering as well, because if they're not going to give us what we want, we have to have the courage to move.
Well, yeah, I mean, to talk about mafia, I mean, there's a lot of old people in this industry, and there's a large software company that doesn't want to do it, but they're in ties with all the other manufacturers and the WFCA and everything, and I'm willing to say that that's not fair. Like, all you guys want to be able to do is check inventory and order their material for customers. Is that hard? Don't they want you to
No,
do
but
that?
also the WFCA is an organization for us, and if you want to say in the matter, be a part of it. You know,
Blank check.
They helped a lot of vendors, they helped a lot of us through the COVID situation with their PPP calls, and Todd, your dad was a huge part of that too, helping us all navigate all of that. You have to take advantage of what's there, and you have to ask questions and get involved.
I appreciate that, and I'll say this again out loud. Jason's gonna partner with me because he's got way more money, but I will have a blank check to the WFCA or the FCB to come talk to us. We can put some money together here and we can acquire the organization and we can all change it.
No.
If that's what it's gonna take, that's what it's gonna take. So I appreciate you saying that.
All right.
There's a question over here somewhere. Over here, a buddy, I think, or I don't know.
Here.
I was just thinking we should create a different WFCA or whatever it's called.
The ICA.
ICA. Yeah, no, seriously, it's, you know, I'm a Republican.
Are you?
Right?
Oh, really?
For those of you that don't know,
What'd you think about Yang?
I loved him.
Okay.
And I just say this, I'm really irritated at the Republican and the Democratic Party because they never do what they say they're going to do, right? If all Republicans owned all 4 houses, they wouldn't fix anything because they live on the chaos, right? So I was just sitting there thinking, if we're members of a group that don't serve us, create a new one, right? So you're sitting there saying, I'll buy or whatever. Just create a new one and say, okay, you know what? If you're not going to do what we ask you to do, then why are all of us members of it?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Listen, the
You know.
FCB2B is just a format of data. That's all it is. We could come up with our own format today and say, here's the new format, everyone here use this format. The problem is we have to get that data from the suppliers. So
I just recently said, if you're not on B2B, you're not in my showroom. I joined FSU, and it was like, if you're not going to be, I'm not going to have my sales staff anymore searching for a price, and because you updated your price list and you didn't send it to me.
Yep.
If it doesn't download into ROM, I don't want you.
Yep. No, 100%. Listen, we'll talk about starting the ICA. We'll talk after this. Maybe Andrew Yang will join it. Who knows?
Right here. So I've come on the development side, so I know exactly how it is.
Can you speak up a little bit just so we can hear?
So see with the B2B, I see both sides. It's a catch-22. They probably don't know how to do it because I've asked several times, hey, can you send me a spreadsheet? And they send me the spreadsheet, and they've totally not been to spreadsheet school or whatever. It might be something on their side that they just don't know how to do.
No.
Quite a few that I've talked to.
I agree with you. It's not that they don't know how to do it. It's that they don't want to do it. It's not a priority. They have tons of money. It takes one person on your team to spend full time doing it. It's not that they don't know how. They don't want to, and they don't prioritize it. That's the problem.
I just want to say one thing, and then I'd like to move on from this because this kind of gets a little boring. Get to something a little more interesting. But I just want to say one last thing about this. Look, we don't want to create a new organization. First of all, you got to run your business. I need to run mine. The organization already exists. The real question we should be asking ourselves is, if the leadership is not doing what we want done, then we need to get that leadership to do it the way it needs to be done, or we replace the leadership. That's what we would do at our own company. So let's not recreate the wheel. It's there. The leadership just isn't listening. Maybe they are, maybe they will after this, so we make them listen, we make that change. All right, let's go to a different topic. Anyone got another question?
I think there's one up front here.
All right.
I don't know if anyone else had the mic, so I don't want to skip, but I know there's one up front here from Gianna. The mic's coming your way. Unless you want to scream.
So, can everybody hear me?
Ah, you got the mic.
Yeah?
I got you.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
So, my big question, we're a newer retail location, and right now, sales training and getting our little minions to be like us, Lance and I, because we want to be more than just L&G of LG Kramer Flooring. And one of the biggest things that I'm seeing right now is wanting to take we call it getting your customers off the street, or as quickly as possible, creating the sale as quickly as possible. What are your opinions, and this is for all of you guys, because I feel like each of you have a viewpoint on it. How do you feel, for example, in the HVAC industry, in order to get someone out to your house, they charge $99. Doesn't matter who you go to. How do you feel about free estimates versus $99 coming out, we'll give you a credit back when you move forward with us? Thoughts, opinions, ideas?
Let's start with John.
Okay, my opinion on this, I think you have to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. For me, first of all, I would know what you want to accomplish. I would not send just a person out to a house that's going to measure without an objective, and the objective would be to get that person to commit or to buy something. But I think you adding value before asking for the sale is how you differentiate yourself. I mean, if you know for sure, you know, that somebody else is charging in your market and you're not, I think the way you can differentiate yourself is that. But saying that, I would say you need to have a definite plan and send a salesperson who knows how to measure, not an estimator to the house. That's my opinion.
That's what I was going to say, then I'll give it to Jason, who knows probably way more. But I don't understand sending measure people to a house. The best place to sell is in the house. You have to close the deal in the house. So that's one side of me. The other side of me says, look at all the companies that are successful. Home Depot charges $25 to do an estimate. And you think about why. And there's two reasons. One, it stops tire kickers from calling you. You don't waste your time. So yes, you might get less estimates, but if someone isn't willing to spend $25 towards the actual purchase of thousands of dollars of flooring, I don't know. And you can always credit them back and say, listen, once you purchase from us, we'll give you the $25 back. So part of me says that's a good barrier of entry to not waste your time, and you can always credit it back. The other part of me says getting in the home is the most important thing you can do. So the more estimates, the better, but I'm curious, where you fall on that.
So short answer is they both work, right? So it's just which one do you want to be? At my company, we do the free estimates. However, I flat out know my retail sales team, when they get that customer that's 75 miles away, I believe, I've heard them do it, they tell them we charge a $50, estimate fee to make sure they're serious. But you got to do it the way that you feel is the best for your market, how far you have to travel. If you're running those right now and 70% are converting to sales the way you're doing it, so just look at your analytics and make a decision.
I can't see the audience at all, but I think there's a question over here.
I got a great one that'll hit you guys all in your egos about the fact that $18 or $20 an hour
Egos?
Home Depot person can get the $75 for a measure. So go do it. I charge $100 to go out.
That's our question.
And it's just because of all those years of working at Home Depot and Lowe's and seeing those guys get it, there's no reason that you shouldn't get paid to do an estimate. And the next level is not crediting it back. So being a good enough salesperson that, hey, you're giving them value, and how to give them value so that they're willing to pay the $100. And your close rates will go from like 33% to 50 and 60%.
Did I?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, but I do appreciate that, and I agree. We can't end on that. We have to end on a juicy, controversial question.
Someone have a question.
But I do appreciate that. We got to end on something juicy. Someone throw something out there that's gets this guy going a little bit. Come on, who's the pot stirrer? We see. There's someone raising their hand right there.
So the question is to kind of all of you. I brought this up to a couple people the other day, and the other day, one of y'all on the board mentioned that within 5 years, if we don't start making a shift and a change, basically the retail service side is going to falter. What makes you say that, and how can we eliminate that, considering there's thousands and millions of dollars sitting in this room?
I'll take this.
I indirectly pointed it at you, yes.
I'm going to tell you something. We did not say that. I will tell you that statement is flat out bullshit in my opinion. Like, there's going to be no flooring industry in 5 years? Come on, that's not true. Like, let's not make it more dramatic than it is. We need to solve a problem that a group of people have been working on it for 3.5 years, and I don't see us making too much progress, okay? Plain and simple. That's all there is to it. So your business will still be alive 5 years from now.
No, but I do. So yes, I agree. It's the same organization we've all been talking about. But We will all still be around in 5 years, but we do have to adapt. I said about it before, history repeats itself, so let's just get ahead of it. Again, I'm not trying to be like doom or gloom and we're all gonna go out of business, but we've seen the mattress industry is such an amazing example to the flooring industry, so let's at least use hindsight and look back and say we know what happened, and if we can just course correct a little bit, we'll at least make out way better. But it is not my belief that we're all gonna get out of here in 5 years, and that's never gonna happen. But you do have a chance to gain more market share rather than less by making a few changes to your business.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the last recession, this story I've told several times, was when Google search and Google advertising was really taking off, was in 2008, 9, and 10. And the box stores got a head start on you guys and took a massive part of market share, not because they were buying better, not because they did anything better. They were just where the customer was, and you guys weren't. And I can tell you what's happening right now is the user experience is being changed, right? Consumers' expectation is visualization is going to be on your website. Sample ordering is going to be on your website. You're going to have a correct data feed on your website. If you're not doing those things, you are vulnerable because the other guys are progressing in that, and the consumer is going to be more picky about who they pick from, and the user experience is going to play into it. So you do have to adapt, but I agree. I mean, the good news is you guys service the consumer better, right? You buy better products. You're going to give a better experience. You should win. So it depends on who's adapting, but there's an opportunity not to let what happened last time happen again.
Anyway, I think we're out of time. So thank you guys,
Thanks,
and looking
guys.
forward to talking after this.